Is a really long story, and I won't go into it. But I just want you to know that I'm just a normal guy. I'm not some kind of super spiritual, missional giant who seeks to embrace and expand the kingdom among the godless horde of Muslims. That's not me. I'm just a normal guy, and I get to engage with some normal people. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. Husband of 25 years to, coincidentally, the same woman, and we have 4 children. The oldest is 24, and then she just got her master's in social work here from IUPUI. She's working with Big Brothers and Sisters of Indianapolis right now. And next in line comes a 20-year-old college student in North Carolina, 17-year-old high school senior at Fishers High School, and a 13-year-old 8th grader. So we've got everything covered, and I have probably experienced everything as far as parenting is concerned. So that's just me. I did go to seminary. Years ago, I did not go to seminary in order to be on church staff or involved in any organized ministry. I just wanted to go and hang out with people who thought a little bit deeper on spiritual things than I did. I wanted to go to a Sunday school on steroids. So that's why I went to seminary. Came back to Indianapolis and then worked like a normal human, right? Just in a normal job in communications and marketing was my background, and that's where I worked. And then a number of dominoes started to fall in my family life. The first domino was a family from Lebanon moved in next door to me in Fishers. Lebanon, not Lebanon, okay? So, the slight difference there. And then a number of other things. And then the next thing I know, we launched Indy Internationals with the goal of reaching the Muslim population here in Indianapolis. So before I jump into the specifics of that, let's kind of back up and not even look at the 30,000-foot view, but let's go satellite view, all right? So I want to talk real quickly about the 1040 window. I don't know if you guys know what the 1040 window is. I'm assuming most of you probably have a good idea, but here's a picture of it. That's it. All those countries within that block consist or comprise the 1040 window. That includes, kind of from left to right, Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, Libya, Egypt, Israel, Saudi Arabia, Yemen, Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, Cambodia, Vietnam, China, Korea, and Japan, plus a whole host of other little countries that you probably have never heard of. I'm going to run through some statistics for you, not one of which will stick, but just you get a sense of what we're dealing with here. 4.4 billion people in that rectangle. That's 2/3 of the world's population. 90% of the people in that rectangle are unevangelized. Not unchurched, unevangelized. In other words, they wouldn't know the gospel if it hit them with like a 2x4, right? They don't know. So of the 55 least evangelized countries in the world, 51 of them are in that rectangle. In that rectangle, 865 million Muslims. And by the way, the world's largest Islamic country is not in that rectangle. It's Indonesia, which is the green thing just underneath on the right-hand side over there. So there's another 400, 500 million Muslims that aren't even in the 1040 window, plus 550 million Hindus. Now here we get to the church sort of focus. The global missionary force of the Church of God, 10% are focused on the 1040 window. 2/3 of the world's population, 90% of the unevangelized, and we send 10% of our missional effort into that rectangle. Out of every $100 spent on missions, a nickel goes to that. That's a little problematic for me, and I hope it's a little bit problematic for you, because I've been convinced that it's problematic for God. And so God has done something, and I want to read a verse for you that is kind of the foundational verse of what we're going to talk about today. And it happens to be in Proverbs. So Proverbs 21, you don't have to turn there. You just listen. I'm only doing one verse. 21:1. The king's heart is like channels of water in the hands of the Lord. He turns it wherever he wishes. Now, it took me a little while to figure out who has channels of water in the hand. What does that mean? So, but if you imagine you hold out your hand and you put a couple, maybe you take that coffee cup that Rennie was talking about and put a couple drops of water into the palm of your hand, you can make it go any way that you want just by turning your hand. And it's minimal effort. You want it to go this way? Just, okay, that's it, right? So that's how a king's heart is in the hands of the Lord. So God can just say, okay, king, I want you to do this. And the king will do that, right? Now, how does that relate to that mess that we call the 1040 window? Well, I think God, and it's pretty clear to me, that God has moved in such a way that he has brought that world to us. Now, before I get into that, let me assure you that it's vitally important that we continue to go. It's vitally important that we continue to do more than a nickel out of every $100 to that segment of our planet. It's incredibly important. You guys know, I walk in and I see a banner there that says, do something. Or maybe it's do something, right? I see another banner over there talking about being engaged. You have a clock that you're praying about being engaged with the world. So you get it. But just in case you don't get it, here's a couple verses that are probably familiar to you. Mark 16:15, and he said to them, go to all the world and proclaim the gospel to the whole creation. That's all the world. Acts 1:8, but you will receive power when the Holy Spirit has come upon you, so that you will be my witnesses in Jerusalem and all Judea and Samaria and to the ends of the earth. Go. Matthew 28:19, you know that one. Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Acts 13:47, for so the Lord has commanded us, saying, I've made you a light for the Gentiles, so that you may bring salvation to the ends of the earth. I would submit to you that this is not optional. The only way that we can get around this is to ignore it. And if you ignore this, you ignore the heart of the gospel. We completely miss it. And so, God has moved the hearts of kings to bring that world here. Take a look at this next slide. Now, I know, look, we got a debate going on tomorrow night, right? Everybody's really excited and jazzed about that. And one of the big topics is immigration. I really don't care where you stand on immigration at this point in time, but let's just take a look. So the blue line tells you the number of immigrants. In other words, an immigrant is somebody who was born outside of the United States, living as a permanent resident in the United States, whether legally or illegally, okay? We're over 40 million living here in this country right now. And you see the trajectory of that blue line? Just 30 years ago, we were at 10 million. So in the last 30 years or so, we've quadrupled the number of immigrants that are living in this country. Now, as I said, it doesn't matter whether you are in favor of Hillary Clinton's approach to just open up the borders and say everybody's welcome, Okay, that's a little bit of an overstatement. Or whether you're in favor of Donald Trump's approach, where you want to shut the doors and kick everybody out, again, slightly overstated. It doesn't really matter what your perspective is politically going forward. Scripturally, we're very, very commanded to reach the stranger, the one from another nation that is among us now. Well, that's 40-some million people that are already here. And from a biblical perspective, we got no choice, right? We've got to reach them. And a large number of people are coming from the 1040 window. Here's a couple interesting notes that, again, won't stick with you, but hopefully that'll rattle you a little bit. In 2014, 1.3 million foreign-born individuals moved to the United States. In 1 year alone, 1.3 million moved here. The U.S. immigrant population in 2014 stood at 42.4 million, or 13.3% of our total population. 13% of our entire population was not even born in this country. I find that remarkable. So now let me kind of chisel that down and add as sort of a side note, international college students, because we're going to talk a lot about this. In 2015, 974,926 international college students in the United States. That's at colleges and universities. If you throw in the English language institutes that's associated with every university that we have here, you add in another 50-some-odd thousand students, and we're over 1 million international college students that are studying here, the vast majority of which will return to their homelands. Studies have shown that 85% of those students never once step into an American home. We have 1 million here, and out of that whole million, 850,000 will go back to their country never having been in an American home, never having really gotten to know an American family. 58% of those students, or 565,000, come from China, India, South Korea, and Saudi Arabia. Guess what? Every one of those countries is in the 1040 window. It's astounding. It's not accidental, by the way, that the area where we've had trouble with planting the seeds of the gospel on this planet, God has then turned around and said, okay, well, you guys are having trouble getting over there. Let me bring them to you. This is not coincidental. Or I would argue it's not coincidental. It's the palm of the hand, right? God's thing goes, go. Okay. So, Saudi Arabia. How many of you love Saudi Arabia? That's kind of what I thought. Listen, I'm with you. There are 120,000 Saudi students in the United States. In the city of Indianapolis, there are 1,000 Saudi students. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Saudi Arabia. It is the heartbeat of Islam. Saudi money fuels Islam all over the planet, for good and for bad. It just does. They've got more money than you could imagine. So it's also illegal for a Saudi to become a Christian. It's illegal for a Saudi to have a Bible. Never mind that the Bible is actually one of Islam's holy books. Doesn't matter. It's illegal to own one. All Bible-based websites are blocked in Saudi Arabia. So if you just by chance happen to be born as a Saudi, the chances of you hearing the gospel are effectively zero. We send missionaries over to Saudi Arabia, to the whole peninsula, Yemen and everywhere else, and they work for years and years and years just to establish relationship with somebody 5 years on average before they can begin to have spiritual conversations with them. Because if they're accused of being a missionary, boom, they're out of the country the next day. They're shipped home. And so they have to be very, very careful in what they say, to whom they say it, and all of that. So it's very, very difficult. Many missionaries have been there for 15 or 20 years and never seen any fruit. So God went, about 10 years ago, 2004, 2005, King Abdullah of Saudi Arabia, who passed away a year or so ago, established the King Abdullah Scholarship Program, where the king will pay full tuition, round-trip ticket home every year, full health insurance, better than what you or I have, plus about $2,000 a month spending money to every Saudi student who comes to the United States. Now, if you do that math, King is writing a check for $5 billion every year. Why? To send his students here. I would pose to you that the king of Saudi Arabia is the world's largest financier of missions. Right? He's sending his mission field to us. We got 1,000 of his right up the street. That direction, I think. I think that's north. So, perhaps, just perhaps, God is moving in a strange and kind of a unique way, although he's been moving people around since creation. So, but God is moving in a really profound way now by bringing people here to us. So, when we talk about Muslims, go ahead, next slide. I'm not giving them a good signal. When we talk about Muslims, we often think, we have certain images, and they're typically not good. Is that not going to work? Next one? No? We're stuck? All right. Well, good enough. You know what they are, right? I have a picture of the World Trade Center in New York blowing up, and so when we think about Saudis in particular, 15 of the 19 on that day were Saudis. We think that they're kind of out to get us, right? They're not happy people. One more, right? And the next one. They're not happy people. Let me tell you, this is a legitimate face of Islam. And it's not just over there. It's not just in New York City. This next photo is at Fishers High School, where 4 years ago, my son is going to football practice on a Saturday, and he sees a whole bunch of cars parked in the parking lot, and he sees people dressed a little bit strangely walking into the gym. So Connor, being the inquisitive guy that he is, follows them in, and he takes this picture. This is because they have more people than their mosque and Fishers can hold, they rented out one of the gyms at the high school, and they had their big celebration after Ramadan. This is Fishers High School. They're here. They're here. Now, what do we do about that? Right? If you pay attention to TV, if you watch Fox News, for that matter, if you watch CNN or MSNBC, whatever, there is an overwhelming sense of fear and dread that comes across the airwaves, right? Just what, yesterday, a guy in Washington State from Turkey killed 4 or 5 people in a mall, shopping in Macy's at the makeup counter. He just pulls out a rifle and starts shooting them. We all know the stories. We hear it day in and day out. So what's our reaction? Is it fear and loathing? Is it compassion? Is it what is it? What will drive our reaction to them is the answer to this question. Oh, go that next. Yeah, stop there. These are very, very important verses, folks. It's part of the Jesus DNA. For God has not given us a spirit of timidity, but of power and love and discipline. Chew on that one for a while. Think about that as you're going to the Colts game or something. 1 John 4:18, there is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear, because fear involves punishment, and the one who fears is not perfected in love. So, when you think about my Muslim friends, ask this question, which is the next slide. Are they the enemy, or are they the prize? Am I going to fear them, or am I going to love them? There's a couple ways that we at Indy Internationals do that. This next photo is a photo of a couple immigrant families that came to us from Iraq. They would call themselves Palestinians, even though they've never actually lived in Palestine. But with everything going on in Iraq, these families lived in a tent at a UN refugee facility for 4 years. Now, tents don't have air conditioning, don't have showers. If you've ever, I don't know, maybe one of you has been to a refugee compound, but it's not pleasant. And they lived there for 4 years. Came to the United States, were flown in because their lottery number had been drawn, and they were placed in Indianapolis. So, what do they have? The very first thing, they have to pay back their plane ticket. Right? So here's a family from Iraq that doesn't speak English. They're trying to get the dad a job. You can imagine what kind of a job he's qualified to do. And so he's working 16 hours a day. He's saddled with $6,000 in debt immediately because he was on the plane, and he's got to pay the government back for the plane fare. Welcome to America, the great American dream. You're always in debt. So I guess we teach them well, you know? I don't know. But there are, the women are kind of shackled at home, don't have a lot of friends, incredibly lonely, don't speak English, don't know how to go to a grocery store, don't know anything about our culture. So what we do is we try to connect women, believing women, with these women so that they can kind of develop a friendship, take them under their wings, show them how life is here in Indianapolis, and at the same time, show them who the giver of life is, because they also don't have any idea about that. So we also connect Saudi students with families. This, next slide, this is a Saudi husband and wife, and he has graduated. She is still in school. He has since gone home. She now is living with this family. I ask people, one of the things that we do is we initiate homestays. And I ask people all the time, I will ask you, to consider opening your home to a Saudi student. Most people's reaction is, well, I'm not going to bring a terrorist into my home, right? Well, trust me, they're not. They're not. They're the sweetest people that, I know you don't believe me. I know. This is not a sales pitch. But I'm just telling you, they're the sweetest people. They come over here knowing that everyone's going to hate them. And they feel it. I can tell you stories, but I won't. So one of the things that we do is we bring families, American families together, Christian families really, together with Saudi students. And then we just start living life together with them. I don't know how many of you guys are going to be busy this afternoon, but the next photo, We just take them to Colts games. We take them to the 500, right? We try to make Indianapolis their home. We try to have them fall in love with the city as we love the city. They're here. They may as well enjoy themselves, right? Then we also take them outside the city. These are people who have never seen snow before. And we take them skiing. And I can't tell you how many times we tell them, listen, you must have gloves. Oh, no problem, no problem. And no, so it's an enjoyable endeavor for them. And that's all it takes. It's just sharing life. It's just engaging. But here's one of the things that I think is very important, that this is an epiphany that I had a few years back, 7, 8 years ago. I can say I love them. I love them with the love of Christ. But I can't love them if I don't know them. Love, wives, you want your husbands to love you, not just acknowledge that they love you, right? Husbands, you want your wives to love you, and not just, oh, I love them with the love of a husband, or whatever. No, you want, and how do you do, there's action, there's interaction, there's togetherness, going and doing things together, there's intimacy, there's all of that, that's part of love. And so I realize that I can't say, I love those guys if I don't spend any time with them, if I don't invite them into my home. So the key to reaching this very, very difficult group is a simple, simple word. And it's got 4 letters in it. And it starts with an L and it ends in a V, or with an E. I just don't know how to spell. It's love. So the next slide. The key to reaching this group of people is loving them, but active love, not theoretical love, not just get together and say, oh yeah, I love those people, let's pray about them. Great, do that, but they're here. Let me tell you a story about my church. I go to Northside Baptist Church, which is on the north side of Indy, interestingly enough, and we have, I know you said you haven't adopted a people group or anything like that. Well, we did. It was a group from Indonesia. Now, if you take a big drill from Indianapolis and go through the core of the earth, you pop out in Indonesia, right? So it's the exact opposite side of this planet, and it's all Muslim. And so we've sent, I don't know how many people to go over there, spend a week there or 2 weeks or a summer there or this, that, or the other thing. And it's amazing to me because these people from my church, whom I love, they go to Indonesia and they engage with people and everybody's glad to have them there. Oh, Americans, wow, freak me out. I don't know what that is in Indonesian, but that's how they react. And then the moment one of my friends would say something, hey, have you ever heard about Jesus? Boom, the doors are shut. And my friends don't understand. Well, everything was going so well. What happened when I mentioned Jesus? Why are they just turn right around and walk away? Why? Well, I can list about 5 different reasons why. And the why is not really the point right now, but this is the point. None of the people that we send over to Indonesia to engage with the Muslims on the other side of the planet engage with them here. I try to make a point that I can't tell you how many Muslims you drive by to get to the airport to fly to the other side of the world to reach Muslims that you cannot reach because you cannot make a relationship in a week or 2 weeks or a summer. It's not possible in that culture. But God has brought them here. There are Indonesians here. There are Somalis in Indianapolis. There are Saudis. There are Libyans. There are Egyptians. There are, you name it, they are here. And here, it's incredibly easy to engage with them. Just spend time with them. You have an interesting opportunity coming up with you. In a couple months, we have what we refer to as Thanksgiving. most of these students have no idea what Thanksgiving is. And so what we at Indy Internationals do is we place 1 to 3 students into a house for Thanksgiving. So if you're here and you have people coming to your house, like in-laws, or maybe you don't want your in-laws coming to the house, you'd rather have Saudi terrorists come to your house, I don't know. Anyway, you're going to have a big gathering, you're making a humongo turkey. Go ahead and have a couple students come with you. Not all the students are Saudis. I got some people from India who are Hindus and are vegetarians, so you can have all the turkey and ham that you want, and they won't touch a bit of it. So you can just begin the engagement that way, right? It's very simple. You've got 15 people in your house already. Why not throw a couple more in? You wouldn't even notice. And so that's the thing. When you engage, ask them, what's with you? What is your culture like? What is your house like? What is your family like? The very first time I met with a Saudi student, we were at the Starbucks at IUPUI, and his name is Mohammed. They're all named Mohammed. And I said, Mohammed, how many brothers and sisters do you have? Okay, that's a very simple question for us in America, right? Here's Muhammad's response. I think 10. I said, what do you mean you think? Don't you know how many brothers and sisters you have? He said, well, my father has 4 wives, and 2 of the wives live in a different city, so I never see my brothers and sisters from those women, and so I get confused sometimes. Right? So my reaction, I could have said, your father has 4 wives? What kind of a psycho is he, right? No, I just said, oh, okay, I get it, I understand. And then when he left, man, what kind of a psycho is he? So anyway, you ask them about their country, their heritage, their religion. They love to talk about it. They love it. They absolutely love it. Bring them into your homes, if for a day, if for months or years. We want to facilitate that. So if you live by the way, UIndy has about, 100, 120 Saudi students. Internexus is an English language school right next to UIndy. They've got about 50. A lot of them are looking to live with an American family. It's what I do. I'll pay you $450 a month if you'll have one in your house. So if that sounds interesting to you, let's work it. And then invest in their lives. A lot of them come over here and they don't have any idea what they're doing. They're going to school. If you develop a relationship with one of these students, they don't know how to get a driver's license. They don't know how to get car insurance. Oh, what's that? And they just don't know a whole heck of a lot. They don't understand our education system, nothing. So let me kind of wrap this up, and then I'm going to give you a chance to ask a couple questions if you'd like. These are my girls. So Michaela is the blonde. We're not quite sure how we got a blonde into the family, but she's the young one. Kelsey is in the middle. She's the oldest one that just got her master's. And then there's Wafa. Wafa is from Saudi Arabia. Her family is from a city very, very close to Bahrain. She's lived with us this entire year. She's getting ready to pursue her master's. She's trying to finish up with her English studies to raise her level of English proficiency, which, by the way, is why they want to live in an American home, to help with their English. Wafa's parents died years ago, so now her oldest brother is responsible for her. And what I mean by that is he makes decisions for her. For example, whether she stays here in the United States or not, Wafa really doesn't have a choice. Who she marries, Wafa really doesn't have a whole heck of a lot of a choice. A couple months ago, right at the beginning of the summer, Wafa's brother decided that enough. Wafa was becoming a little bit too American. Our family was rubbing off on her. And every day, he called her. Are you saying your prayers? Are you keeping covered? She would always assure him, yes, yes, yes. We have 2 dogs, 2 golden retrievers. Dogs defile you in Islam. So he didn't like that she was in contact with dogs. He didn't like that she was in my house because I am a male. My 17-year-old son is living there. It's not to be done. But Wafa stays with us because, according to her, she's never felt love like she has from our household. And I don't say that to try to paint a picture of, oh, we're the greatest family, since, Joseph and Mary or whatever. Not at all. Not at all. She sees our downside. She's living with us. We can't hide who we are, right? She sees it. When I get mad at my son, she knows it. She sees it every day, right? And so, but the love and affection that we pour out, it's so easy. It's so easy, and it's transformed her. Her brother showed up here 2 weeks ago today. The plane ticket for her for a week ago today to go back home. She's done. We knew for about a month now that she's done. I'm losing my daughter. And it broke our heart as a family. So my wife and I are driving down to North Carolina. My son screwed up his shoulder and had to have surgery. And so we're driving down there. It's on a Tuesday, and the phone rings. So Wafa's brother, Abdulaziz, got here on Sunday, and it's Tuesday, 2 days. We're driving down. Stacy answers the phone. And all I hear is, I'm driving through West Virginia, all I hear is, Wafa, slow down. I can't understand what you're saying. He changed his mind. I can stay. There's no way that's supposed to happen. There's no way. We turn away 2 or 3 Saudi students each week who are asking to live in an American home. And they're all stories like this. Okay, well, maybe not all of them, but they're all potential stories like this. So, by God twisting his wrist just a little bit, the king of Saudi Arabia responded and sent Wafa to my house. And my family will never be the same. That's engagement. And so, is this what you're supposed to do? I'm not here to tell you what you're supposed to do. I'm just here to tell you what we do. And then if you want to come along with us, let's take this journey, this adventure together. It's great. It's a wonderful thing. So here's a couple things. We would love for you to join us. Now, what does that look like? You could do the Thanksgiving thing. You could talk to me about, hey, maybe I would be a good candidate for a homestay, right? We could talk. Or maybe, especially ladies, if you have an interest in working with a refugee family, let's talk. Let's talk. It's there. That opportunity exists for you. So you can open up your homes, open up your lives. Clearly, there's a bunch of financial opportunity. I'm not here to try to soak money out of you, but we live off of support. If it's something that kind of floats your boat, if you're interested in that, we'll talk to you. You're not obligated by any means. But to use a sports analogy, God is throwing this softball right down the middle, and the church is swinging and missing. Correction. The church really isn't even in the batter's box. We got 120,000 Saudis, the most influential Islamic country on the planet, bar none, and we don't even know that they exist. Until 5 years ago, I didn't know we had 1,000 Saudis here, right? Did you? No, until today. Well, here you go. So the opportunity is here to get to know some really cool people and laugh with them and cry with them and share life with them. That's engaging, right? Questions? I know I'm probably like 12 hours long here, so I'm sorry. But if you have a question, I'm happy to address that very, very quickly. Really? Okay, here's a question. Oh, good. So, yeah. Well, we don't invite her to church. In fact, there's a number of reasons. I won't get into them. But we have a small group that meets at our house every Sunday afternoon. And we invite her to that. And I'll tell you the main reason why. Two reasons. Number one, if you go to a church, and there's a lot of cultural stuff, the American Christian culture in the church, right, is very, very different from what they find in a mosque. So you find yourself explaining Christian culture. Good luck finding the verses in the Bible that help explain Christian culture, right? Christian church culture. But secondly, let's say that there's a Wafa that comes here with you and becomes a believer and is discipled here and then goes back home. Is this available in Saudi Arabia? No. So we would have discipled her into something that doesn't exist for when she goes back home. However, a home group, right, a home church sort of mentality, now that can happen. It's going crazy in China, right? Algeria. So Iran. So that they can go back to. So we invite her to the small group all the time, and she sits there and participates. She listens. We have family devotions occasionally, right? So we decided we were going to go through the book of John. And my son came up with that idea so that Wafa could go through the book of John with us as a family. And so we just started going through the book of John. And she just starts asking questions. Well, what is this? What is that? What do you mean, Word of God? This, that, boom, boom. And we go. And so I gave her an Arabic-English Bible. And when we had moved all of her stuff out 2 weeks ago, when we knew her brother was showing up, he hates that she's living with us. So she has a niece that has an apartment here on the south side. And so we moved all of her stuff out and put her in that apartment to make her brother happy. And she took it with her. She took her Bible with her. We fully anticipated that she wouldn't take that, because if she's caught with it, she gets reported by another student, and her niece is she's very iffy. And so there's a lot of risk just in her taking a Bible. So we just talk. We're driving around. We just talk. I just ask questions. Wafa, what do you think about, one of the threats that her brother made on him, or on her, was that if you don't come home, I will marry you off to somebody that you will hate. So we just talk about that. And one of the questions that he asked, Wafa's talking to him, and she says, but my American family loves me. And he asked, why do you say they love you? What are they getting from you? And she told him, that's the point. That's the point. So she's getting it in little doses. And believe me, with Islam, it's like a massive onion, and there are layer after layer after layer that you have to pierce through. But the only thing that pierces through, it's not apologetics. Apologetics is great, but it's not apologetics that's going to win them. It's love that pierces that onion. So it's just through simple conversation. There's no 4 spiritual laws for Saudi students. You know, we don't do that. Any other questions? With these people, with Muslims, everything works one-on-one. You can't do a group Bible study. That's why on college campuses, Cru and InterVarsity, it just doesn't work for them. Everything has to be one-on-one. These guys run from anything Christian or church-oriented. So with our organization, we're not a missional agency. Well, we are, but we're not publicly, right? And all they know, all these students know is, man, these guys love us. They hang out with us. They do fun stuff with us. And they come to us left and right. So they don't connect with us before they come here, typically, although some have. But once they get here, it's this weird network. And they all know. It's like when I first started doing homestays, I met a student who wanted one. I had, okay, well, here's a family. Boom, I connect them. 2 weeks later, I'm meeting with this guy, and he brings 4 students with him, his cousins, and, hey, these guys all want homestays. Oh, okay, so now I'm trying to find homestays for them. And pretty soon, if they like you, word will get out. They all talk amongst themselves. So it's all word of mouth. So, listen, it's when you watch the news, when you watch the debate tomorrow night, just remember that there's something bigger going on. It's something tremendous, tremendous that God is doing. And I am blessed to be able to be a part of this. If you'd asked me 10 years ago, hey, did you know that you're going to be a part of the birthing of the Saudi church? I'd have said, what? What Saudi church, you know? But sure enough, 26 million Saudis, I'll leave you with this stat, 26 million ethnic Saudis, 120 Saudi believers on this planet. We could put all the Saudi believers in this world and their families right here, comfortably. That's why God brought them here to us. So we can double and triple that and see what goes on. All right? Let me pray for you guys. Father, we